I'm now reading about hope for some at Gitmo as Afghan war ends. The approaching U.S. deadline to withdraw troops from Afghanistan in 2014 may help free a handful of Guantanamo detainees by the year's end, with or without President Barack Obama's blessing. There are 17 Afghan detainees left out of a total prison population of 155. Lawyers for some of these men argue that the legal basis for holding them indefinitely without charge will unravel when the U.S. draws down its troop presence from the country at the end of this year as scheduled. Human rights activists, meanwhile, are making a broader and more controversial argument that the U.S. will no longer be at war, period, at the end of 2014, and thus will be compelled to charge or release every Gitmo inmate. The deadline is clearly on Obama's mind. With the Afghan war ending, this needs to be the year Congress lifts the remaining restrictions on detainee transfers, and we close the prison at Bay, he said in his State of Union speech last week. The president thus far has failed to deliver on his 2008 promise to shatter the camp. Once active hostilities or a hot war are over with the country, the authority to detain its citizens under the laws of war disappear. The detainees' lawyers say, just as the U.S. had to release Japanese soldiers after World War II, so too will the Obama administration be forced to hand over Taliban militants who have been languishing at Gitmo for as many as 12 years without charge. Frank Goldsmith, a North Carolina lawyer who represents the former top Taliban official and Gitmo detainee, says he thinks the troop withdrawal presents an opportunity for him to argue that his client could be freed. Afghan President Hamid Karzai has asked for his release, arguing that he was a moderate Taliban functionary who would be helpful in peace negotiations between the government and the Taliban. But the U.S. government has designated as one of the 55 Gitmo detainees. It cannot prosecute for lack of evidence, but believes he is too dangerous to release. There are expressions of hope for us. About being a turning point and significant event. Goldsmith said the Supreme Court decided in 2008 that detainees must be allowed to challenge their detention in the U.S. court system. But the confusion remains about whether U.S. courts have the authority to compel the government to release prisoners held under the laws of war. No prisoner has been released from the prison by court order alone, including a handful of detainees who have won their cases. If the war is over, the eliminates the justification for holding the man, but that's not the same as saying they are going to be freed. said David Raines, a D.C. lawyer who represents an Afghan detainee and other men at Gitmo. There is a critical question of whether any court will compel the United States to release anybody. Nonetheless, said he will most likely file a new suit arguing for his client's release once troops have withdrawn from Afghanistan. A former top lawyer in the Obama administration says that even if the lawyers don't prevail in court, their argument that their client should be released at the end of the war in Afghanistan could pressure the administration to let the men go. I think the main reason for litigation is to create some action-forcing event, said. But the non-Afghan detainees are most likely out of luck, since the administration argues it is fighting a broader war against that is unbound by geography. Much of the government's war against and other terrorist groups, including the U.S. authority to hold men in the prison on Bay and to kill suspected terrorists with drones, is legally based on one brief sentence that passed Congress only a few days after 9/11. The authorization for the use of military force, AUMF, says the government may use force against groups and individuals who planned, authorized, committed, or aided the attacks. The human rights and civil libertarian groups argue that once a substantial number of U.S. troops are no longer involved in the active hostilities, it is unprecedented and illegal for the government to continue to use its war powers to detain or kill individuals. If you see continued identified detention after withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, that would be a new state of affairs in the United States, said senior counsel at Human Rights First. There's no end to that war. A spokeswoman for the National Security Council says the Obama administration believes ongoing detention of individuals at is fully consistent with both international and domestic law. But added that the administration plans to review the AUMF in order to help craft the president's plan to ultimately repeal it. Obama has argued that America must stop fighting an endless war against terror groups that have now been substantially weakened. Liberals argue that the AUMF should be repealed once troops are withdrawn from Afghanistan. At this stage, we are discussing this issue and look forward to engaging the Congress more robustly as we refine our thinking, said in an email. They will be a critical partner in getting us to the president's goal of refining and ultimately repealing the AUMF. A top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Schiff, said he hasn't yet seen a proposal from the White House on what to do with the AUMF. Of New York, a Democrat on on the committee also said he hasn't seen the White House plan. Both men favor repealing the AUMF entirely and charging or releasing the remaining ghetto detainees. Conservatives argue that the law is necessary to give the president flexibility to fight a war against terror networks that are constantly changing shape and are not necessarily bound by borders. The upcoming congressional debate on the issue is sure to be dogged by concerns that the administration will be forced to charge or release all Gitmo prisoners if the law is repealed. The government has argued that some of the detainees will pose a danger to the country if released, but that it doesn't have sufficient admissible evidence to charge them in court. Concerns about the group may give lawmakers pause when asked to sunset the law. After 12 years, if there's no enough evidence to charge somebody for a crime, it really is time to send them back to their home countries or other foreign countries, said Senior Legislative Counsel at the ACLU. That's what the United States has done with every single war in its entire history. I'm now reading about Cronies. The latest Coach-backed project is a viral cartoon even the left can love. What do you get when you combine Captain Planet with G.I. Joe villains? Add a splash of NTK street populism and a bucket of funding from Charles and David Koch's Donor Network. Koch's Donor Network. Meet the Cronies, a new online video series that seeks to raise awareness about how well-connected companies use their political muscle in Washington to rig the system in their favor, using animation straight out of classic Saturday morning cartoons, and action figures made with a 3D printer. The Cronies series illustrates how corporations, bureaucrats, and politicians work together at the expense of entrepreneurs and the little guy. The story is told from a perspective of the bad guys, the cronies themselves, a coalition of characters from the darker corners of America's political system. Our universe of anti-heroes includes Corn, who represents big agriculture, the symbolic stand-in for the military-industrial complex, Parts and Labor, who keeps business protected from competition, and Banker, the master of moral hazard. With help from Big G, the cronies use their influence and power to gain access to the G-Force, or, as everyone else calls it, the federal government. The cronies are mandating, terrifying, and boondoggling their way into action. The crony Facebook page shouts, stomping out market competition with the power of the G-Force. Anyway, you get the idea. The videos, which appeared online last week without any sign as to where they came from or who made them have been praised across the political spectrum. This is literally right-wing propaganda, said the post-Sach Carter when he introduced the show on left-leaning site's digital video program. So why do I love it? At first glance, the website's origin is closed in mystery. It has to mark of branding or funding other than a small copyright notice at the bottom that says it's project of Incorporated. Don't be fooled. Is a fake company. As part of the rollout, the creators of the video established official accounts on Facebook and Twitter. So where did this high quality and obvious obviously expensive project come from? Yahoo News has learned that the cronies grew out of public notice, an advocacy group and polling firm that's part of the sprawling political advocacy network overseen by billionaire activists Charles and David Koch. Public notice spokesman Bill Ricks confirmed the connection to the Crony project to Yahoo. The Cronies project to Yahoo News in response to an inquiry after several sources informed us the project's origins. Public notice has passed the project on to another group within the Koch network called Generation Opportunity, which was founded in 2010 to reach out to young people. Generation Opportunity, which produced a viral series of anti-Obamacare web videos last fall, is considering a broader rollout of the Cronies brand later this year. Sources with knowledge of the group's plans told Yahoo News. While the funding of the program is tied to the Koch network, the videos are a product of the creative genius of libertarian filmmaker John Papula, the CEO of Emergent Order, a video company based in Austin, Texas. Papula burst onto the online video scene when he produced the Boom and Bust Rap series, educational videos that teach economics by depicting the rivalry between John and that have a combined 7.2 million views. Combined 7.2 million views on YouTube. In an interview with Yahoo News, Papula, a veteran of properties like TV, Nickelodeon, MTV Animation, described the video as Captain Planet without the economics and without the earnest save the world squawk. The Cronies message has a wide appeal that can blur the traditional political boundaries. He says it taps into that tiny atom of agreement between the Tea Party right and Elizabeth Warren that rails against cronyism and the dominance of major corporations. That I think and I can basically wrap arms and sing the same tune on this. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. I'm now reading about Philippine leader likens China's rulers to Hitler. Philippine leaders likens China's rulers to Hitler. Philippine president has warned China's efforts to claim disputed territories are like Nazi Germany's before World War II, drawing a fierce Chinese response on Wednesday, branding him ignorant, branding him ignorant, branding him ignorant, branding him ignorant, branding him, branding him, branding him ignorant, branding him ignorant and amateurish, amateur, and amateurish. In an interview with the New York Times, called for world leaders not to make the mistake of appeasing China as it seeks to command control over contested borders and islands in the strategically vital South China Sea. At what point do you say enough is enough? Well, the world has to say it. Remember that the sun was given in an attempt to appease Hitler to prevent World War II, told the New York Times in Mania on Tuesday. Was referring to the failure by Western nations to back when Adolf Hitler led Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler led Nazi Germany occupied western parts of the European nation in 1938. Ahead of World War II. Comments come less than 2 weeks after Japanese Prime Minister Abe raised the temperature in a parallel territorial dispute. Parallel territorial dispute with China by appearing to compare Sino-Japanese relations with the run-up to World War I. Japan and China are at loggerheads over the sovereignty of disputed islands in the East China Sea, raising fears about a military confrontation between Asia's two biggest economies. Fears about the military confrontation between Asia's two biggest economies. China also claims nearly all of the South China Sea, one of the world's most important waterways, as it is home to vital shipping lanes and is believed to see the top lucrative deposits of natural resources. For the Philippines, as well as Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, have overlapping claims to some of the waters, and those disputes have for decades made the South China Sea another potential trigger for military conflict. China has been steadily increasing its military and Coast Guard presence in the sea in recent years to assert its claim, causing diplomatic tensions to rise and stoking concerns in the Philippines about perceived China bullying. The Philippines says China vessels have since 2012 effectively occupy the rich fishing area called which is about 220 kilometers of its main island, but 650 kilometers from the nearest major Chinese landmass. The Philippines launched legal action with the United Nations last year, asking it to roll the Chinese South China Sea claim is invalid. China has refused to participate in the UN process. Anger in China over Nazi comparison. China's foreign minister did not immediately react to comment on Nazi Germany, but an angry commentary was released on the state-run Xinhua news agency. Philippine President as Third Jr., who has taken an inflammatory approach while dealing with maritime disputes with China, has never been a great candidate for wise statesman in the region, the commentary said. But his latest reported attack against China, in which he senselessly compared his northern neighbor to the Nazi Germany, exposed his true colors as an amateurish politician who was ignorant both of history and reality. The commentary also insisted China's claims to the South China Sea were legitimate, and what were references by and Abe were not warranted, despite lame comparisons by Philippine and Japanese leaders. The international community cannot ignore the fact that China has long chosen the path of peaceful development. It said, warned in a New York Times interview that China may pursue further territorial conquest if it succeeded in taking control of areas also claimed by the Philippines. If we say yes to something we believe is wrong now, what guarantee is there that the wrong will not be further exacerbated down the line? He said. Later in the interview, he said, "You may have the might, but that does not necessarily make it right." His media office confirmed on Wednesday. The New York Times had correctly reported the president's comments on the dispute over the South China Sea, which the Philippines calls the West Philippine Sea. The president's statement affirms the country's position on the importance of upholding the rule of law with respect to resolving territorial claims in the West Philippine Sea, presidential spokesman Coloma said. It is the principled position that draws from historical lessons, including that which he cited in the interview. Recommended for you. Obamacare to cut work hours by equivalent of 2 million jobs. CBO. EU envoy meets Iranian president. Facebook account sign up. Join for free today.